Okay, well, thank you again, Andrew, for the introduction and for having me today in the session. Like what Andrew mentioned, I actually just arrived in Munich a few days ago, and it may look like daylight now in my background, and that's all virtual. It's actually 7 a.m. right now in Munich, very dark outside, and -2 degrees. So if I'm not going to make sense today, I'm going to blame it on the time zone difference. And because it's so early for me, I hope that I'm not the only one who's going to do all the talking today. Hopefully it will be an interactive session. And feel free to use the chat function because I definitely would love to hear your views and see some of your thoughts and perhaps, even best practices in your organization to share with the other audience as well. So to start us off, I'd like to do a very quick poll, and Imin is going to help me put it up on the screen right now for all of you. And I'd like to ask you all to answer this question. And in the introduction earlier on, Andrew also mentioned about, what the post on Straits Times as well. And I just want to do a poll in today's audience. What do you all think? Is remote work here to stay or no? Amazing. We have the yes just shooting up and a few maybes. I am glad to see that there is no no so far, but we never know. Might have a few coming up. And as you all are answering this, maybe if you can also share in the chat, for those who say maybe, share with us why that is your answer. Okay. Well, I think a lot of us have already answered them. Thank you for very much for sharing your views. Let me just take a look at the chat and see if we can see some of your responses. All right, cultural global mindset. If there are more people who would like to share your thoughts, please do so. The next question I would like you to also answer is whether or not, and this is the next poll already, let us know if also you would like to return to work for 5 days a week. Oh, okay. Look at that. It's interesting again to see so many answers, saying no. But I'm also seeing a lot of yes. And for those people who've answered yes, and that's quite a significant number, tell us why you want to go back to the office. And we're talking about 5 days a week, which means it's the full working week. We're not talking about, okay, partial. So if you answered yes, I'm assuming you want to go back to the office full time, reporting to work at 9 as usual and getting off work at 6 o'clock for 5 full days. I see, one of our audience mentioned about the job requirement, and I think that's really true. Also it's very related to the topics that we are going to discuss in the workshop today, already, or rather the entire session today. Whether or not remote working is possible, it could be depending on the job. In some jobs, you might need to be in the office full time. So thank you very much, to share your views with me and sharing your post. That's very interesting information to hear from all of you. So it seems like many of us don't want to go back to the office full time. I know I don't want to go back to the office 5 days a week now, as I mentioned, because the COVID situation is really bad in Munich right now, and I would feel much safer working from my home than having to commute to the office. I don't know if after some of seeing the results or hearing some of the thoughts on the chat, some of you may change your answer in the first poll on the maybe whether or not the remote work is here to stay. The truth is, it is going to be here to stay whether or not you like it. And therefore, it is very important for companies to be innovative on how we manage future remote work. Sorry, I'm just trying to navigate my slides. I'm not sure what's going on. All right, so the next slides, I just wanted to share with you some of the statistics I found, and this is not a Singapore-specific statistics, and it's more of a global, statistics that we've found online. Many people are enjoying the benefits of working remotely and the ability to work from anywhere. Of course, depending on whether it's safe to do so in your locations. There is no need for long commute, which reduce the cost and save time. And you get to spend more time with your family. Of course, some of us may feel differently. It's interesting because one of my colleagues actually told me recently that his wife told him that they have a marriage contract for life, but they do not have a contract for lunch because she's really sick of seeing him at home every day and wants him to go back to the office. So, everybody is different. But from the statistics, it's clear, right, that there is a really high percentage of us who would like to work remotely. And also, I think Andrew mentioned earlier on the article on Straits Times, in Singapore already, 8 out of 10 of us want to have an opportunity to continue some form of a remote work. And this is evidence, again, that we cannot ignore this new norm anymore. And there's no returning back to the so-called old times, right, where everyone goes to the office and you're able to have a space, a common space to interact and to work together. The new norm of remote working is here to stay. Here's another poll. I'm assuming all of you here are either people managers or individual contributors. So if you are an individual contributor, I'll ask you to answer the first question. The poll should be coming up on your screen very soon. And if you are a people manager, you can answer the second poll. But of course, if you face the scenario for both, we're very much welcome to also answer both questions. Very encouraging results, as you all probably don't know if you can see the results live on screen. I can. And, so far I'm actually seeing a really high number of no. I mean, it's quite balanced, but I'm seeing more no's than yes. And it's very encouraging to see that because, and I don't know if it's because we are mostly from the technology space, that already the foundation and platforms of being able to work from home, or the fact that maybe we already had remotees in the past and we're just, expanding that possibility to wider audience. So it's very encouraging to see a lot of people say no. But also we have a very high a number of individuals who said yes here. And it's interesting because, some of these concerns are very important. And especially when we are now in the virtual world, it is even more critical for us to maybe have conversations across the different groups of people, right? All of us are in very different roles. So it's very important to try and put ourselves in different shoes. And that way we are able to hopefully make remote working easier. It's also very important to have open and transparent conversations between managers and employees. If you are concerned or worried about something, find an appropriate opportunity to have an open discussion. Don't assume that you know what is going on the other side, and don't assume the intent. It's very important in the remote world to have that critical open dialogue. So Thank you again for sharing your poll with us. And panelists, if you are chatting online, also, you feel free to chat out with the audience as well and let the audience also see your thoughts around this. So I'd like to share more statistics here. It shows basically the biggest struggles for working remotely. And it's also shared here that the biggest struggle is the blurred lines between work and personal life. Because now every conversation is a very deliberate meeting or call right now. Many of us are not able to just turn our chair around and ask a quick question anymore. It's not uncommon for us to have back-to-back meetings and really long days. I don't know about you, but currently I'm in a temporary accommodation right now before I move into my permanent space. My office is less than a few meters away from my bed and my sofa. And my lunchtime is often just a 10 minutes break in between meetings. Sometimes I don't even have a break for lunch and I have to switch off my video to try and eat. And I know just now from chatting with Andrew as well, he's actually running, into another seminar today too. And, there's probably also no lunchtime, right? So there's a lot of struggles that I think we are all facing, experiencing it personally. Others top struggle in the statistics include the loneliness and the difficulties in managing collaboration and communications in the virtual world. It is important for companies and managers right now to recognize these challenges are very common and it's a norm. In fact, all of us should be empathetic towards one another during this crisis. Offer support and helps to your friend and colleagues because you really don't know what they may be going through today. Thank them for their hard work and show gratitude because you may be just saving someone's day. Managers also have their fair share of struggles. The biggest concern are the reduced employee focus and productivity in their teams. It's not easy to try and juggle between motivating their team members, managing development and performance, maintaining the culture, and trying to answer to the top management. Not to mention, managers are individuals themselves too who are experiencing the same struggle that all of us are going through. So the next time you want to complain about your managers, think twice about it. Instead, maybe put yourself in their shoes and lend them their support. Ask where you can help them and where you can contribute. At Red Hat, we recognize the struggles and try to create an environment that is remote friendly for all. I'll share a few examples today, hopefully to inspire you all as well. But I would really also encourage all of you to utilize the chat. Share some of the best practices that you have in your organization too, because I'm sure audience today can also learn from one another. Since many of the people during this period, the struggle is the bloodline between work and personal life. In order for us to have our associates to take a well-deserved break, we establish a series of what we call a recharge day. In fact, globally, we just had our recharge week over the year-end holidays. So everybody globally can take a break together. And people can rest with a peace of mind knowing that they don't have to come back to a flooded mailbox or the fact that, they may have to attend to an urgent call during their break. It is important to recognize everyone have different physical and mental needs, even though we don't have to, because we don't have to travel to office anymore. Most days we just sit in front of the computer for the whole day, having back-to-back video meetings. So the lack of physical activities and the ability to go out and have some fresh air can have a huge impact on our well-being. I recently changed a series of calls with my team to a video-less calls and actually invited them to go outside and take a walk when they have the call with me. So during one of the call, one of them actually told me that there hasn't been any sunlight, any sun at all. in Sweden for more than a month now. So the opportunity to have a call while taking a walk during the day meant so much to her. And similarly, a lot of positive reaction from others as well. And honestly, I benefited so much as well, because the call that I have with all these individuals when they are able to go out and take the call while doing a walk, the energy level during these conversations are significantly higher. We are able to, take topics to the next level. And it actually takes us away from that the need of having that video call all the time. The work from home situation now means that you have back-to-back call the whole day. And many of us are suffering from what we call like video fatigue, right? So it really helps us, mentally, to take a break from video. There shouldn't be any expectation to have video on all the time. And of course, I understand not all calls can be outdoor or can be videoless, and we do want to see our friends from time to time. But a lot of the calls are possible for us to just do it via a WhatsApp call versus, having to always dial in on a Zoom or a Google Meet ID. And I think what I would say is to maybe set a small target of having at least maybe 20 to 30% of your future calls to be videoless, and encourage, your colleagues and team to actually take it from outside wherever it's safe, of course, and enjoy a little bit of that daylight versus having to be stuck in the home office for most of the time, and then only going out to see that it's already dark and you don't get that vitamin D in you. So we also have, very different levels of family commitments and personal needs. During this pandemic, schools may be closed and family members may need looking after. I think we have a lot of working parents who may need to block out an hour or so to pick up their children from school or to help with digital learning. We may have elderly parents to look after, deliveries to collect, or just to take a mental break. These are logistics that we may not have to experience ourselves, but it doesn't mean that it's the same for everyone. So it is very important to create a trusting and empowering environment where associates can plan their own schedule and achieve the expected deliverables at the end of the day. And this should definitely be seen as a norm, not a special circumstances, because there need to be such a norm in order to create a safe environment to discuss individual needs with your managers. Also, now that we are not working in a common space, there is no opportunity to bump into your colleagues at the coffee machine or the water cooler. And we should never underestimate the importance of a water cooler chat. We are all social creatures and there is a need for social interaction, even though we can't meet in person as often as we wish. And one of the things some of our colleagues in Red Hat did was to establish what we call a virtual office hour, because now we are default working from home. Everybody's not in the office. And I know Harish on this call does it very often. Just like how you walk past someone's desk in the office, you actually dial into a call just to say hi. And there was once I actually delved into Harish's virtual office hour. And that is really how this opportunity to spend time with all of you came up. We're just chatting away on some of the common topics recently and some of the struggles all of us are going through. And he suggested that maybe we could, bring this to the audience today. And, in Red Hat, we want to continue to hear feedback. So we've created various platforms for associates to share their thoughts, feedback, and suggestions. Things like employee surveys, I'm sure is pretty common in a lot of organization. And in Red Hat, we have a mailing list called the memo list. It's a very, very famous list within the organization because everyone is automatically subscribed to it as long as you're an employee, and everyone is encouraged to share anything and everything under the sky. So to give you a bit more context of what memo list is all about, associates can debate about things like pay equity openly. You know, people challenge about promotion decisions for extroverts versus introverts. We have very interesting conversations and debates around different culture. There was even once a very famous debate on whether hot dog is a sandwich. So very interesting conversations that we always have. It is almost like a news blog that we have using memo lists. And we actually ask also associates to give us very open feedback on what can be better. And at the same time, also how individuals themselves volunteer to contribute to support a more remote-friendly environment. So needless to say, open communications, feedback is the key to the way we work. It's even more important now that we are working remotely. You should always ensure everyone has a voice. And not just people who have the loudest voice, right? Create a channel and a platform where everyone feels safe to speak up and share their views. We also created different kind of support for different groups. They're dedicated channels to support managers to manage through this turbulent time, how to enable managers to provide better support to their people, because now we're not in the office all the time together. People team is not sitting in the office anymore. We are also relying on managers to be the bridge to the employees, so that they are bringing us information, but also at the same time becoming like that secondary bridge that supports the employees and associates as well. We pay a lot of attention to new hires because, you know, knowing well that they have taken a very big leap of faith to join a new company during this pandemic and don't have the luxury of meeting their managers and colleagues face to face during this period. Establishing connection is harder, especially for new hires. So we introduced a whole series of virtual new hire orientation, created, formalized buddy system inside and outside of the direct team. We also strongly encourage new hires to get connected to the extended team, to build stronger connections and network across the entire organization. In Red Hat, we also offer home office support, but providing a small sum of money periodically to help our associates build a comfortable home office where it is not possible to work from home. Associates can tell us and we will arrange for a safe way for them to work from the office. Like I mentioned earlier on, Red Hat is default working from home until at least June. So we don't ask any associates to come back to the office unless they tell us they desperately need to for strong personal or business critical reasons. And there's a very structured way of us doing so. No one can influence the decision of the associate except the associates themselves. So managers cannot say that this person needs to come back. Because we understand everybody has very different family situation, right? You may have, family members who are very vulnerable right now, and by commuting to work, it may expose you to different risk and bring, the risk back home. So we understand that completely, and we want the associates to be making that decision themselves versus the fact that we are making the decisions for them. So also very quickly, I wanted to share that it's very important to spend time listening to your colleagues and team. If you have not already done so, I highly recommend that you start establishing a set of team norms or what we call a social contract. Have a very open conversation with your team to discuss the expectations and communications methods. What are the behaviors that we would all like to see as a team during communications and the way we interact. And I find this very impactful to uncover what is important to the team instead of making assumptions myself. There is usually a lot of common themes that will come up. So with this exercise that you see on the screen, we actually use the Google Gem board and everybody just put in, their respective post-its on what they hope to see as behaviors with their colleagues, and what they hope to have as a team norm in terms of the way we interact. And after debate with a lot of conversations, we basically narrowed down to these main themes. And you can see here, you know, a lot of times we say we want to have fun. And because in the office, we used to be able to go out lunch together. We used to be able to have jokes together. But these days, in order to have a conversation, we need to actually dial in online. We need to call somebody. So it's important that in the limited conversations that we have with each other, we are having fun and we are still, you know, enjoying the things that we are doing and interacting in an effective way. So, and it is really a very good way for us to all agree on what is the expectation moving forward. And you can see here, everybody tried to sign online, and it sets the tones and expectations for future conversations. So to end off, you know, I like to, you know, share this tagline we often use in Red Hat: innovation needs collaboration. In this time of great uncertainty and new challenges, the only way we can innovate is to bring ideas together. Don't assume that you know all the ideas and all the solution. And trust me, nobody expects you to know all the answers. More importantly is to create that space and opportunities for ideas, voices, and solutions to be heard. So act now, and hopefully some of the suggestions that I shared earlier on is able to help you create a more friendly, remote-friendly environment. Thank you very much. And I think we have a few minutes for questions if anybody has.
Thanks, Christine. I think there will be some questions. This is Harish. I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A section yet, but in the chat, I think there were some questions about what is the recharge day that you mentioned. I did answer it, but you want to go ahead and add to it, that's fine.
Thank you, Harish. So yes, Recharge Day is really like a public holiday in a sense, right? But it's a company public holiday, and it's a worldwide public holiday that we implemented in Red Hat. So everyone on that very same day stopped working. So we basically work, on the global calendar to identify a suitable day that globally everybody would find it possible to take a day off. And the reason why we want to do that is because that is the only way everyone can rest with a peace of mind, right? Knowing that you don't have to come back. And very often when we go for holiday, we come back, our mailbox is full, and you're very stressed out because you need to then clear out the mailbox, and the holiday is never enough. So there was a deliberate decision from the company to do this globally, worldwide, so everyone takes the same day off. But we also understand that some roles may need to, it's not possible to have 15,000 associates all go on holiday together, and maybe a very, very small percentage of us need to be at work. We usually plan this out so that this group of individuals can again have a collective day off to again rest and have a peace of mind.
There's another question by Xiao Fei. He's asking, how does Red Hat promote information exchange among different departments in the organization, especially in a working from home arrangement?
Yeah, thank you for that question. In fact, that is a very critical piece within Red Hat, right? So I mentioned about the memo list, for example. Everybody has, opportunity to share on that kind of platform, but we also have a lot of other virtual connections. So we create opportunities, for like what we call T sessions. That's cross team collaboration for people to chime in thoughts during those sessions. We also very often make these sessions not work base related, because we want to make sure that people have the opportunity not to discuss day-to-day tactical issue only, but also have the opportunity to share what are some of the challenges maybe different departments are going through, and how we can creatively come up with solutions together. And the team norms that I've shared earlier on is an example as well. We do very often across multiple teams. So we actually set up, workshops that enable multiple teams or cross-functional teams to come together to share what are the challenges they're going through in a remote world and what are the social contract or a team norm that they would like to embark on in order to enable or enhance that collaboration in the virtual world.
Thanks, Christine. There are two more questions, but they're kind of related, so I'll summarize it a little bit. One is from Xiao Fei, and the other one is from Annie. It's about new hires. Do we conduct? Does Red Hat conduct onboarding or including interviews digitally only, or is it a hybrid, in person and otherwise? And do remote hires get to meet at least once, sometime during the hiring process?
Thank you for that, Harish, and thank you for the questions. So for interviews right now, we are defaulting to virtual interviews only. But of course, we understand that some roles needs to probably have face-to-face interviews, but we really, really try to restrict this to the really bare minimum. In fact, I have not seen any face-to-face interviews yet. It's very important for us to also be able to assess the candidates during the virtual world, right? Because they are going to come in and experience the way of Red Hat, which is now in a virtual world. So it's also very important for us to also be able to speak to them virtually and assess whether or not, they will be suitable from a cultural fit perspective. We actually utilize very structured interview process. We assess our candidates based on competency framework. Every of our interviewers and panels are trained in the competency framework interview process. So it's easier for us to be able to identify in a structured manner whether someone has the right skill set or has the right cultural fit to join Red Hat. So at the moment, very much virtual. And with regards to the new hire, whether or not they have the opportunity to meet face-to-face, it really depends on the office situation. So we have a very structured approach in terms of assessing what is the current risk state for each office. For Singapore, for example, we are what we call the phase 2 right now, where we actually assess that it is actually safe enough for us to have some form of face-to-face meeting. In the past, actually, there isn't. The new hires are welcome virtually, and we actually, publicly or organizational-wide introduce them, so that we, everyone knows who they are. We blast out their pictures. We also share about, what are some of their personal introduction. But now that the country is allowing us to have a little bit more social interaction, we arrange in very, very safe manner for potential opportunities for new hires to at least have some form of a face-to-face interaction. But again, that's limited because we want to protect our associates, and the safety of our associates is the top priority for the organization right now.
All right, thanks, Christina. Another question, which is kind of interesting. This is from Aaron asking, how do you ensure that employees worked the 8 hours per day?
Very interesting question. And I'll be honest with you, we don't do that. We don't, in Red Hat, our top values and, our, what we call Red Hat Multiplier is to have trust, right? We give people the freedom, but we also expect them to have the accountability when they are practicing these freedom, which is also why earlier we mentioned about people have different schedules, they have different requirements and expectations and commitments. We allow them to please make flexible arrangement for themselves. If they need to step out of their home office to do something, we don't expect them to tell us that, but we measure by deliverables. So at the end of the day, if you're able to deliver your job and your expectations, it doesn't really matter how many hours you work. We don't expect an employee to sit in front of the computer and maybe surf the internet just because we want to log that 8 hours. So that's not the culture within Red Hat. And I would also strongly encourage, audience to also practice that, because at the end of the day, it's in your home office. Don't create stress for yourself that you have to manage an employee to make sure that they work 8 hours a day. You should be assessing your employees based on their achievements and their deliverables. And that should be the way we are managing performance. And that is the way that we manage that in Red Hat.
Thank you, Christine. There's a related question. Somewhat is from Xiao Fei. Says, does staff appraisal, in this case for Red Hat, include and cover aspects like collaboration with other departments?
It does. So I mentioned about the Red Hat Multiplier earlier on. It is really a set of behaviors we expect every Red Hatters to follow. And we are one of the very rare companies, or very few companies, to assess not just the what, which means is your achievement and everything as part of your performance. We also assess the how. So if you are a salesperson in Red Hat and you are top numbers achiever, you bring in all the dollars, but along the way, as you close the deal, you damage all the relationship and collaboration with, I say, the solution architect or the delivery team. We also question, why, how can that happen? So we measure both the what, in terms of numbers that we bring in, but also, the how, the collaboration with the departments. Red Hat Multiplier is part of our performance appraisal within Red Hat.
All right. I think this is the last question for you, Christine. Okay, hang on. Maybe it's not last question. Maybe second last question. This question.
So I'll let you decide how.
Yeah. I think I think we'll give you the opportunity to speak. The first question is the year-end recharge day. It is superior, but still expect flexibility. What should we do for year-end recharge day? This is from Yok Hua.
I'm not sure I understand this particular question, but if I, to think about the flexibility piece, and again, please tell me if I'm not answering it to your question. But like I mentioned earlier on, we understand that, while we want a majority of our people to be going on leave on the same day, just so that, they are able to take a really good break, we also understand that's not possible because, for example, a lot of our engineers or from the customer support team, they need to be around, on standby to make sure we're delivering a smooth and still excellent service to our customers. So very often they may not be able to take the same day off, but then we work with the respective teams and the managers to say, tell us then, how can we help? How can we ensure that your colleagues and teams are also going to take this day off? And very often we try to have the next day off within the same quarter. So every quarter we have one recharge day. So if associates for whatever reasons are unable to take that off, we do give the flexibility to say you can take it on another day, but we highly encourage it to be within the same quarter.
All right. I think last question would be, how does Red Hat manage office space considering balancing between remote working and working from home? Does it mean that we can consider to reduce office space by a proportion with such a trend?
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak on behalf of my office, my global workspace solution team. They're definitely we're looking into this right now. I don't think, however, we will be looking at reducing our workspace. And the reason because Red Hat is actually very actively hiring right now. And for all of you who are interested to explore, you can always explore our job website. We are still building our headcount and our office space is always running out. So despite that we are going to work from home or have remote, more remote working examples, we are not looking at reducing the workspace, because we know that these workspace can ultimately be repurposed into the increased headcount space. And also, there is no question in terms of the fact that, Red Hat is an organization where we need a lot of collaboration. We are definitely thinking into how future would look like. While we are absolutely supporting remote working culture, we want to make sure that in the event there is a need for collaborative workspace, there is something available.
All right, I think, Christine, that's a good round of questions. I think that we had 8 of them, which is that's a good pace. So thank you very much, Christine.